The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a soft golden light on the kitchen. Gloria sat by the window, a cup of tea cradled in her hands, her mind wandering to memories of days gone by. At 72, she had lived a quiet, uneventful life in her small suburban house in Ohio, surrounded by a modest collection of furniture, the familiar hum of her old refrigerator, and the constant chatter of the world beyond her door. To her neighbors, she was simply Grandma Gloria, the sweet lady who lived alone, always ready to share a cookie or a story. But there was more to Gloria than met the eye. She had lived frugally for decades, saving every penny, investing wisely, and watching her wealth grow quietly. She hadn't told her 3 grown children or her 5 grandchildren about the vast inheritance she had quietly accumulated over the years. Why? Because she wanted to know if they loved her for who she was, or if their affection would change if they knew about the money. It wasn't that Gloria was cold-hearted. She had raised her children with love, supported them through thick and thin, and watched them grow into successful adults. But over the years, she had seen too many families torn apart by greed, the inheritance battles that destroyed relationships, the way people seemed to care more about the money than the people who had earned it. Gloria didn't want to be part of that. Today, she was going to find out the truth. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the phone, dialing the number of her eldest grandson, Alex. The line rang once, then twice. His deep voice finally came through, with the faint sound of traffic in the background. "Hey, Grandma, how's it going?" Gloria smiled, trying to steady her nerves. "Alex, honey, I need to talk to you about something important." The pause on the other end made her heart race. "Sure, Grandma, what's going on?" I've made some bad decisions, some poor investments, and now I've lost everything. The house, the savings, everything." She let her voice tremble just enough to sound genuine, but not so much that it seemed like a performance. "I'm not sure what to do. I could really use some help." She could almost hear him processing the information. "Oh, wow, that's tough, Grandma. How much are we talking about?" "It's all gone, Alex. The house, my retirement, everything. I might have to sell the house." There was a long pause. Then Alex sighed, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, Grandma, I've got a lot going on. Maybe I could, send you some money to help, but I really can't do much more than that right now. Things are crazy with work." Gloria felt a sharp pang in her chest. She had expected this, but it still hurt. "I understand, sweetheart. Thank you anyway." She hung up the phone, trying not to let the tears fall. That was the first call. The second one would be just as important, but it felt harder. She wiped her eyes and dialed her granddaughter, Lily. Lily's voice came through on the second ring, laced with excitement. "Grandma, what's up?" Gloria took a deep breath. "Lily, I'm in a bit of trouble. I made some investments with someone I trusted, and it turns out I was scammed. I've lost everything, my savings, the house. I don't know what to do." There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh my God, Grandma, that's awful," Lily said. "But, what exactly happened? Could you, get some of it back?" "I don't think so, darling. The debts are piling up, and I might have to sell the house. I don't know where I'll go next. I'm scared." Lily's voice softened, but there was a hint of hesitation. "Well, I'm in the middle of a big project right now, so, I'm not sure what I can do. Maybe I could, share your story on social media or something? My followers might want to help you out." Gloria could hear the click of keys in the background. You could set up a GoFundMe, Grandma. I bet that would help you get back on your feet. Gloria's heart sank. She had expected this. Thank you, sweetheart. I really appreciate it. They said their goodbyes, and Gloria hung up, staring at the phone in her hand. 2 calls, 2 people, both offering little more than distant sympathy and half-hearted attempts to help. She looked at the clock. It was almost time for her final call, the one that would reveal the truth. This time, it wasn't about the money. It was about her youngest grandson, Noah. Noah was different. Gloria knew that. He was the quiet one, the one who didn't chase money or status. He had always been the one to send her handwritten cards, the one who called just to ask how she was doing. He was the one who had stayed by her side during her husband's long illness, the one who had sat with her for hours, listening to her stories, sharing his own. When the phone rang, Gloria answered on the first ring. "Noah? Grandma? How's everything?" Gloria's voice shook as she told him the same story she had shared with the others. "Noah, I don't know what to do. I've lost everything. I'm broke and I'm scared." Noah's response was immediate, and it made Gloria's heart swell. "Grandma, don't worry. You don't have to go through this alone. I don't have much, but I'll help. You can come stay with me, and I'll send you some money. We'll figure it out together." Tears welled up in Gloria's eyes, and this time they were real. She hadn't expected this from Noah. He was the one who had always been there for her. He was the one who truly cared. "I'll drive up to see you this weekend. We'll make a plan. You're not alone in this, Grandma. I promise." The weekend arrived, and Gloria prepared for the arrival of her grandchildren. She had arranged everything carefully, making sure her house looked exactly as it had when they were kids. She had even left a few bills on the kitchen counter, overdue notices she had printed herself. She dressed in old jeans and a faded sweater, trying to look as ordinary and struggling as she could. When Alex arrived, he gave her a quick hug and looked around, taking in the scene. "Grandma, are you okay?" "I'm managing, sweetheart," Gloria said, trying to hide the disappointment in her voice. "We'll talk soon." Lily arrived next, fashionable and full of energy, but Gloria noticed the discomfort in her demeanor. It wasn't a real concern, just a performance. Noah arrived last, his hands full of bags of groceries. He immediately hugged Gloria tightly. "I'm here, Grandma. Let's make sure everything's okay." As they sat down to eat, Gloria knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. She would tell them the truth about the test she had conducted, the one that revealed the depths of their characters. "I've been thinking about your grandfather a lot lately," Gloria began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "He was a man who worked hard, who built a life for us, but he kept one thing hidden from everyone, even from me. We had a substantial inheritance, a fortune built over many years, but we never let it change who we were." She paused, watching their faces. "Your grandfather and I wanted to make sure you all loved us for who we were, not for what we had. So I tested you." The silence that followed was heavy. Alex, Lily, and Noah all exchanged glances, their faces a mix of confusion, anger, and realization. "I lied," Gloria said softly. "There was no financial ruin. The money was always there, invested safely, but I needed to know if you would still be there for me when I had nothing left to offer, if you loved me just for me." Alex and Lily were angry. "You lied to us?" Alex asked, his voice shaking. "Why would you do that?" "I needed to know the truth," Gloria said quietly, "and now I know. Noah, you've been the one who truly showed me love, not because of the money, but because of who you are." Noah looked at her with a mixture of pride and sadness. "Grandma, you didn't need to test me. I would have helped you no matter what." "I know that now, sweetheart, and that's why you're the one who gets the inheritance." The room was silent as the weight of Gloria's decision hung in the air. The evening passed in a quiet haze. The house felt heavier than it had in years, filled with the weight of truths laid bare. Gloria could feel the strain in the air, the tension crackling between her and her grandchildren. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about the raw, uncomfortable truth that had come to the surface. It was about how they viewed her and how they viewed themselves in relation to family. Noah had gone to the kitchen to begin cooking, his calm demeanor providing a grounding presence. Gloria could hear the clinking of pots and the rhythmic chopping of vegetables. The scent of simmering stew filled the house, offering a kind of comfort she hadn't realized she needed until now. Alex and Lily had retreated to the living room, their voices low but intense, as if trying to figure out how to process the revelation. Gloria, though, sat by the window again, looking out into the dimming sky. The trees swayed gently in the evening breeze, and for a moment she let herself feel the weight of the past. She thought back to when she and her late husband had lived modestly, to the days of simple joys and quiet satisfaction. They hadn't needed luxury. They hadn't craved what others sought. It had always been about the family, the small, meaningful moments that had built a life full of love. It was hard to watch that now, to see her grandchildren so caught up in the world that money created. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "Grandma?" It was Noah, standing in the doorway of the living room, his expression soft. "Dinner's almost ready. You okay?" Gloria smiled faintly. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking." "You've done a lot of that lately, huh?" he said with a slight smile, walking over to sit beside her. "I can't imagine how hard all this must be, testing us like this. It's a lot." Gloria nodded. She had asked herself the same thing a dozen times over the last few days. Had it been cruel to deceive them? Had she been too harsh, too focused on proving a point rather than just trusting them? But at the same time, something deep inside her told her that it had been the right thing to do. She had needed to know where they stood, and now she did. "Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the right thing," Gloria said quietly, her voice distant. "I didn't want to be the one who pushed you all away, but I couldn't ignore the way things were going. I couldn't just turn a blind eye to the way money seemed to change everything." Noah sat in silence beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "Grandma, you don't have to worry. I know you did what you thought was best. It's just, I never thought it would come to this, that I'd be the one to get it all, just because I cared. That feels weird." Gloria turned to face him, her eyes soft with understanding. "You've always been the one who cared, Noah. From the very beginning, you were the one who asked how I was doing, the one who showed up. It wasn't about what you had to offer me, but about what was in your heart. That's why you deserve it." Noah shifted uncomfortably, his gaze falling to the floor. "I don't know if I deserve it. I've been so focused on trying to get by, just surviving. I haven't done anything extraordinary." "You've done what matters, Noah. You've been present. You've shown love when it wasn't easy. That's more than a lot of people do." Gloria paused, allowing her words to sink in. "And sometimes just being there for someone is the most extraordinary thing you can do." A quiet stillness settled between them, the weight of the conversation heavy but not suffocating. Noah nodded slowly, as if the weight of his grandmother's words had started to take root in him. Dinner was ready by the time Alex and Lily returned to the table, their expressions more subdued than before. The tension in the air was palpable, but Gloria knew it was time to face the difficult part. She couldn't let things linger any longer. The choices had been made, and now it was time to share the consequences. They gathered around the small kitchen table, the warm glow of the overhead light casting soft shadows on the walls. The pot roast Noah had made filled the room with its hearty aroma, a small comfort in the midst of everything else. "Okay," Gloria said, breaking the silence. "Let's get this over with." Alex sat down first, still adjusting to the revelation. "I still don't get why you didn't just tell us, Grandma. Why lie? Why make us think you had nothing?" Lily, who had been quieter than usual, looked at her grandmother. "Yeah, it feels like a betrayal. We could have helped you if you had just told us." Gloria sighed, the weight of their words hanging heavily in the air. "I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it because I wanted to know if you would still care about me, even if I didn't have anything to offer. I wanted to see who you really were at the core." Lily's eyes welled up, and Alex's posture stiffened, but it was Noah who spoke first, his voice steady despite the tension. "Grandma, I don't need all this. I just need to know you're okay. You've always been there for me, and I'll always be here for you." A wave of emotion hit Gloria, and for a moment she couldn't speak. The love in Noah's words, the quiet sincerity that had never wavered, was everything she needed to hear. And she knew deep down that the decision she had made was the right one. "You're right," Gloria said quietly, wiping a tear from her eye. "I didn't want to test you, but sometimes you have to do the hard things to see the truth, and now I know exactly who I can count on." Noah reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "You'll always have me, Grandma, no matter what." Gloria smiled, a small, tender smile, and nodded. "I know, sweetheart, I know." The evening stretched on, the four of them eating in mostly silence, but it was a comfortable silence. They didn't need words to fill the space anymore. They had all said what mattered, and now they just needed time to heal. As the night came to a close, Gloria stood up and quietly cleared the table, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about money, it was about love, about family. And for the first time in a long while, she felt truly at peace with her choices. The days after the family dinner passed slowly. The house, once filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, felt quieter now. Gloria spent much of her time tending to the garden outside, her hands busy with the simple task of weeding and pruning, her mind lost in thought. There was a strange calm in the air, but it wasn't entirely comforting. It was the calm of change, a shift that had begun the moment she made her decision. Noah had stayed for a few extra days, helping her with the things she couldn't quite manage alone anymore. He didn't ask for anything in return, just quietly went about his work, making sure the house felt more like home than it had in weeks. Gloria had always known that Noah was different. He had never been interested in the flashy, showy things that seemed to captivate his cousins. He had a simple, grounded nature about him, and she had seen it in him since he was a boy. Meanwhile, Alex and Lily had both left the weekend feeling unsettled, each processing what had happened in their own way. Gloria had received a few texts from them since then. Alex had asked if they could talk, though he hadn't quite apologized yet. Lily had sent a message saying she was thinking about everything, but neither had reached out with any real desire to understand. Gloria wasn't sure what she expected, but the lack of genuine remorse stung more than she cared to admit. She knew they were both struggling with the reality of their behavior, and though part of her wanted to call them to bridge the gap, she realized it wasn't her responsibility anymore. She had done the hard part, she had given them the chance to show who they were, and now it was their turn to decide what came next. The phone rang in the quiet of the kitchen, breaking her thoughts. She glanced at the caller ID and saw Alex's name. Taking a deep breath, Gloria picked up the receiver. "Hello? Grandma?" Alex's voice was softer than usual. "Can we talk?" Gloria hesitated for a moment before answering. "Of course, Alex. What's on your mind?" There was a pause on the other end, and Gloria could hear the sound of cars passing by in the background. Alex was probably still at work, busy with whatever tasks he had been consumed with before. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about what you did and what I didn't do. I've been a jerk, Grandma, and I didn't get it, not until now." Gloria felt a flutter of hope in her chest, but she remained calm. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. I guess I was so focused on my career, on keeping up with everything, that I forgot about what really matters. I never considered how hard it must have been for you, and when you called me for help, I brushed you off. I didn't think of you as my grandmother who needed me. I saw you as a business opportunity, like someone I could help when it was convenient for me." Gloria's heart ached hearing him say the words out loud. She had suspected it, but to hear him admit it stung more than she expected. "Alex, I've watched you grow up, and I've always been proud of you, but what you did, it hurt me. Not because I needed money, but because I needed you. I needed you to show up and care. Not because I had something to offer, but because I'm your family." "I know, Grandma, I know, and I've been thinking about that a lot. The way I treated you, it wasn't right. I'm sorry. I should have dropped everything and been there for you. I should have listened and I should have called back, but I didn't." Gloria sighed softly, the weight of his words settling over her. She had always known that Alex's success came with a price. He had never learned to value people the way he valued business deals, and now it was clearer than ever. But there was still something in his voice, something she couldn't ignore, the acknowledgement of his faults. That was the first step, and maybe, just maybe, it was enough. "I'm glad you're finally seeing that, Alex," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But the truth is, it's not just about the money, it's about family, about being there for each other, no matter what." There was a long silence, and for a moment Gloria thought the conversation might end there, but then Alex spoke again, softer now. "I know, and I want to do better. I've been a bad grandson, but I don't want to be that person anymore." Gloria smiled to herself, a small, bittersweet smile. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. "I hope you do, Alex. I really do." The days that followed were slow, but they felt different. Gloria spent more time with Noah, and they had long conversations about life, about what had been and what could be. Noah was different, but there was also a quiet wisdom in him that made everything feel okay, even when the world outside felt chaotic. Gloria didn't expect things to change overnight. It was going to take time for Alex and Lily to fully understand the depth of their actions, but she believed that the seeds of change had been planted. For now, she focused on what she could control, the quiet, peaceful life she had built, and the family who would eventually find their way back. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Gloria found herself sitting on the porch swing she had shared with her late husband for so many years. She closed her eyes, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. It had been a tough journey, one that had brought her to some uncomfortable truths about her family. But in the end, she had learned something valuable, that family wasn't just about blood. It was about the actions you took when it really mattered. Noah came outside and sat beside her, handing her a cup of tea. "You okay?" Gloria smiled at him, feeling the weight of the last few days lift just a little. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I think I'm going to be okay." As they sat in the quiet, the soft sound of crickets filling the air, Gloria couldn't help but feel that, despite everything, the love that had always been there was still strong. It had been tested, yes, but perhaps that was what had to happen for them to truly understand what family was about. The weeks that followed were quieter, but in the best possible way. Gloria found herself growing closer to Noah, whose steady presence had become the anchor she never knew she needed. They spent their mornings together, sometimes tending to the garden, sometimes simply sitting on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. In a way, it felt like they were reclaiming the time that had slipped by unnoticed. Meanwhile, Alex and Lily remained distant, but there was a change in their behavior. Gloria had received a few more calls from Alex, the conversations more thoughtful, less hurried than before. He didn't have all the answers yet, but Gloria could hear the difference in his voice. There was a newfound sincerity, a desire to rebuild what had been broken. Lily, on the other hand, had started to post more honestly on her social media. Gone were the photos of luxury vacations and overpriced skincare products. Instead, there were glimpses of a quieter life, pictures of her cooking meals at home, spending time with friends, and even a few snapshots of her volunteering at a local shelter. Gloria had heard through the family grapevine that Lily was considering scaling back her influencer career and pursuing something more meaningful, though she hadn't yet said it aloud. The change wasn't instant, but it was there, and for Gloria, that was enough. The morning air was crisp as Gloria and Noah walked through the park near her house, the leaves beginning to turn their autumn hues. It was a peaceful day, and Gloria was grateful for it. They didn't speak much, sometimes words weren't necessary, but every so often Noah would make a quiet comment about the weather or something he'd read in the paper, and Gloria would nod, content. "Grandma, I've been thinking," Noah said, breaking the silence. "You know, about everything." Gloria raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. "About what, sweetheart?" "About the inheritance, about what happened with Alex and Lily. It's been eye-opening." He paused. "I think I'm starting to get it. What you did, how you tested us. It was hard to see it at first, but I think you were right. It wasn't about the money." Gloria smiled softly, a small but knowing smile. "I'm glad you understand, Noah." He shrugged, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his jacket. "It wasn't about what I thought it would be. It wasn't about you just leaving me money. It was about knowing that I could be someone you trusted, someone you knew would be there when it mattered." Gloria's heart swelled, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in him. "I never doubted you, sweetheart, but sometimes people need to see things for themselves, not just in their own lives, but in the lives of the people around them." Noah nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about how I've been living my life, you know? It's all been about getting by, not really about doing what I love or giving back." Gloria stopped walking and looked at him, her gaze steady. "You've always had a kind heart, Noah. You've always known what matters. Don't lose that." He met her gaze, his blue eyes filled with determination. "I won't. I'm going to start looking for a place of my own, a little restaurant maybe, somewhere I can make real food, real connections, not for the money, but because it's what I love, and I want to do something that gives back to the community." Gloria's heart skipped a beat. "I'm so proud of you," she said softly. "That's exactly what I hoped for." Noah smiled, but there was a quiet sadness in his eyes. "I've been thinking about what you said, about family, about showing up when it matters. I've realized I haven't always done that, and I need to make it right." "Sweetheart, you've already done more than most," Gloria replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You're here. You're present. That's what matters." They stood there for a moment, the sound of distant laughter and birds chirping in the background. Gloria felt a weight lift from her shoulders, as if something inside her had finally found its place. The truth of the matter was, she had known all along who would show up when it counted. It wasn't about the money, it was about love, and Noah had proven that in the most genuine way. The following month was one of transformation. Alex continued to call more regularly, though their conversations remained surface level. He still had a lot to figure out, a lot of self-reflection to do. But Gloria could sense that deep down he was trying, and that was enough for now. Lily, too, had shown signs of growth. She invited Gloria out for coffee one morning, a rare gesture that spoke volumes. They didn't talk much about the inheritance or about the past, but they talked about the future. Lily was thinking about a new direction, something quieter, something that didn't revolve around sponsorships and appearances. "I think I've been running from something," Lily said, her eyes distant as she stirred her coffee. "I don't know what it is, but I've been chasing the wrong things for so long. I want to start over, do something that feels real." Gloria didn't have all the answers, but she smiled at her granddaughter, a quiet encouragement in her eyes. Sometimes we need to stop running and just listen to what our heart is saying. It wasn't the reconciliation that Gloria had once imagined. There were no grand speeches or sweeping gestures. It was simpler than that. It was about taking small steps toward healing, toward understanding, and toward something deeper than all the noise that life had thrown at them. As for the inheritance, Gloria had made her decision. She had set up the trust, the one that would give Noah the majority of her estate. But she wasn't doing it out of pity. She was doing it because she knew, in her heart, that he would use it wisely. He would do something meaningful with it, something that mattered. Blake and Madison would receive their share, but it wasn't the same. They hadn't earned it, not yet anyway. Gloria didn't need them to prove themselves overnight, but she hoped that in time they would come to understand the value of what she had tried to teach them. The night Gloria finished the final touches on her will, she sat in the living room, her eyes scanning the old family photos that lined the walls. They were memories of a life well lived, a life full of mistakes, yes, but also full of love. Noah came to sit beside her, his presence as comforting as ever. He handed her a small envelope. "I've been thinking about something, Grandma," he said quietly. She took the envelope from him, intrigued. Inside was a small drawing, nothing extravagant, but it was a sketch of a cozy little restaurant with a handwritten note that read, "For the future, thank you for showing me the way." Tears stung her eyes, and she hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you, Noah, so proud." For the first time in a long time, Gloria felt like everything was exactly where it needed to be. Not perfect, but whole. They had all been tested in different ways, but in the end, it wasn't about the money. It was about the heart. And in that, she had found everything she needed. The weeks that followed were a quiet, reflective time for Gloria. Her heart, once heavy with uncertainty and doubt, now felt lighter. The house felt different, still familiar, but somehow more peaceful. She spent her days enjoying the little things, her walks with Noah, the slow moments of reflection, and the occasional phone call from Alex or Lily, though they were still figuring out how to bridge the gap between what had been and what was now. Gloria had always been one to value simplicity, but now, more than ever, she found herself savoring the simplicity of life. There was no longer the constant worry about her grandchildren's motivations. There was no longer the need to prove anything. She had given them the opportunity to show who they were, and in the end, it was Noah who had stood by her side, showing what true love and loyalty meant. But time, as it always does, moved forward. Gloria's health, while still strong, was beginning to show signs of wear. The quiet moments in the garden had become a little more difficult to manage, the tasks a little heavier. She had never been one to admit that she was growing older, but now it seemed like the time had come. One afternoon, as the sun set behind the hills, Noah sat beside her on the porch swing, the gentle creak of the wood the only sound between them. The air was cool, the sky streaked with pink and orange. It was a perfect evening. "Grandma," Noah said, his voice serious but warm, "have you thought about what you're going to do next? I mean, with everything." Gloria looked at him, her eyes soft. She had thought about it, more than once. She knew the inevitable was coming, but she wasn't ready to face it. Not yet. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Well, with the inheritance, with the trust, it's all set, but I think you should be the one to make the decision, not just leave it up to the lawyers." He paused, looking out at the horizon. "I want to help, but I think this is your legacy, and I want you to be sure of it." Gloria smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek before she could stop it. "You've been more of a help to me than you'll ever know, Noah, and I've already made my peace with what I want. It's all been set in motion, but you're the one I'm proud of. You're the one I trust." Noah reached out, gently squeezing her hand. "I know, and I'll make sure that everything goes the way it should. I'm here, Grandma. Always." For the first time in a long while, Gloria allowed herself to relax, to let go of the years of worry that had weighed her down. The future, as uncertain as it was, felt a little brighter with Noah by her side. There was a quiet assurance in his presence, a calmness that eased the knots in her chest. A few months later, Gloria found herself standing in front of a new chapter. It wasn't just about money or inheritance or the family dynamics that had shifted over the years. It was about the life she had lived and the lessons she had learned along the way. As she sat at her kitchen table, signing the final papers that would solidify her decisions, she felt a sense of completion, like the final brushstroke on a painting that had taken years to finish. Noah had opened his restaurant, a small, intimate place filled with the smells of fresh herbs, homemade bread, and savory stews. He had done it all on his own, with no investors and no grand expectations. It wasn't flashy, but it was real, and it was everything Gloria had hoped for him. He had created something meaningful, something that reflected the simple, grounded values he had always carried with him. As Gloria watched him work behind the counter one afternoon, helping a customer with a warm smile, she realized that she had done more than just provide for him. She had given him the space to become who he was always meant to be. And that, she realized, was the greatest gift she could give. Meanwhile, Alex and Lily had both made progress in their own ways. Alex had started to pull back from his high-pressure career, beginning to focus on what really mattered to him, his family, his relationships, and his own happiness. Lily had taken steps to distance herself from the influencer world, choosing instead to pursue a degree in social work, something she had always been passionate about but had never truly allowed herself to pursue. They had both learned, in their own time, what it meant to live with intention. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't always easy, but they were on the path toward becoming the people they were meant to be, and that, to Gloria, was enough. The day came when Gloria knew it was time to leave the house for good. She had lived there for so long, and it had been the heart of her family. But she wasn't afraid. She was at peace. Her legacy wasn't just in the money she left behind. It was in the love she had given, the lessons she had taught, and the family that had learned, sometimes the hard way, what it truly meant to be there for each other. As Noah helped her pack up the last few things from the house, she looked around at the familiar walls, the old furniture, the quiet corners where memories had been made. "It's time, Noah," she said, her voice steady but soft. He nodded, his eyes filled with a quiet understanding. "I know, Grandma. It's time." Together they walked out of the house for the last time, leaving behind a legacy that was more than just financial. It was a legacy of love, of trust, and of the unwavering belief that family, no matter how complicated or messy, was what truly mattered. And that, my friends, is the story of a family that learned what truly matters through love, mistakes, and the test of time. But before you go, I want to ask you, what would you have done if you were in Gloria's shoes? Would you have made the same decision? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new story. Thanks for being here with me. Until next time, remember, it's not about the money, it's about the people who show up when it matters most. See you soon.